There's something that came up for me in preparing for this session that I'm really grateful for you guys for asking me to join you, because I've never made that connection quite so specifically. As I told you at IDEO, we used to have the brainstorming rules written up on the wall. And today, whenever I go into a workshop, whether it's with an executive board or with a team that's trying to solve a problem, I have a big poster with the rules for brainstorming that we hang up on the wall there. And these rules, I've always said, they're, in a sense, they're at the core of what creative work is about. And if you find a company, and that's, I think, what made me fall in love with IDEO when I just walked in there, was here was a bunch of people who naturally knew these rules, and these were the rules by which everybody interacted. And the rules go: defer judgment, build on the ideas of others, one conversation at a time. There are 6 or 7 rules, there are different versions of that. The first rule is always defer judgment. Okay, and you'll see many versions of that. I have to give credit here to Charles Osborne, who was the man who came up with the term brainstorming. There's a big advertising firm called BBDO. O is Osborne. In the 50s, he came up with a term. He was really interested in how people are creative, and he started studying the creative people in his office to understand how people were creative. He came up with the fact that you need to have some rules. If you're bringing people into a room, you should have rules of behavior. It's not just free-for-all, anarchy, throw out ideas. And so defer judgment is the first rule in all versions of the rules of brainstorming. Innovationship, when I formed it in 2012, we came out with our own version of the rules, and we have the standard rules, but the first rule in our list is listen. And I'll explain why that's important. It's important because a brainstorming session is about bringing people together so that they can inspire each other for new ideas. Okay? If you guys have an idea for a new type of watch, you can send me an email and say, Leon, please, can you think about a watch and send us an email with a list of ideas you have for the new watch, right? I know my own ideas. I can sit here and I can think about it, and I can do my own kind of brainstorming work and come up with as many ideas as I can and send them to you. However, when we get together in a room, the reason for us to get together is that I can listen to you, and something that you say can inspire a thought in me that I never would have thought of myself. And then I say something. Here we are. I said something that I wasn't expecting to say, and then Sean picks up on that, and he says something, and suddenly we've built, and build on the ideas of others is one of the rules there. But the whole thing is sitting on the basis of walk into the room and you have to listen to other people. Most people think when we invite them into a brainstorming session that they should be walking into the room and just coming in with as many ideas as we can. And the first thing we say to them is, bring your ideas in, but really listen to other people, because that's where there'll be a spark of something that you couldn't have expected yourself. Meditation is about listening. And meditation is about deferring judgment. It's like sit quietly, truly listen internally, and whatever comes up, don't judge it. Just let the thoughts flow through you. Listen. If a thought comes up, don't judge it. It's a good thought, it's a bad thought. Don't judge yourself. I should be listening, I shouldn't be listening. Just sit there quietly and listen. And this is the same with a brainstorming session. The first rule is listen. The second one is defer judgment. If somebody says something that for you seems to be completely crazy. There's no way we can ever get that done. Too expensive, too complicated, too far-fetched. Don't judge. Just sit there and listen. If you get an idea, you can say it and build on it. But listening and deferring judgment are really the same, one and the same for both of these activities.
That's beautiful.
Another big thing that design thinking does, as I said, we get inspired by observing people in the world, finding out what needs they have. So someone like me, I was hired into IDEO as a cognitive psychologist. Colleagues of mine who came in and were in my human factors team were anthropologists, sociologists. So today it's already a given that any company that wants to innovate has these soft science people as part of the innovation team, right? And what we do is we go out into the world and we listen. We sit there. So if I'm designing a new medical product, I would go to somebody who maybe is a diabetic. And rather than interview them on the phone, I'd go to their home and sit there with them and listen. Say, what's it like to be a diabetic? Tell me, what did you have for breakfast today? Could you show me where do you store your medication? What is the process you go through? Okay, so show me. So how do you measure your blood sugar level? Okay, and then, so what do you do? How do you throw away the syringe after you've injected yourself? So the process of creative innovation, a la design thinking, starts with going out into the world and listening and observing. And again, there's this place so much of that's connected to meditation, which is non-judgmental listening. Whatever people do, we can learn from it. And it really ends up, I cannot count the number of times in my own experience of over 20 years, but also all my colleagues, where we've gone out on observations in preparation for a project, and we were surprised in a way that was just off the charts. You go there expecting to see people do a certain thing, and then there's a tiny little workaround that someone in their home has done around getting around a piece of software that isn't working well, that you can go back to your client and say, here's an opportunity. People keep putting Post-its up on their screen because your software or your competitor's software isn't doing this function for them. If you include this in your software, you're going to be fulfilling a need and people will want your product. So it's in the listening and in the opening up that those insights and inspirations come in.